What if you were a cop in America in the 90s? Imagine a heavy holster on your belt, a notepad in your pocket, a paper map in your car, and a crackling radio in your ear. It's 1990s America. Not glossy, not a TV show, not the kind of world where the police look like a flawless team from a movie. This is the real street. Dirty, loud, tense, and you're just a regular cop, one of those who goes where others are afraid to even look. In the 90s, being a police officer in America wasn't about order. It was about driving straight into chaos every day and hoping it wouldn't take you first. To understand what it was like, you have to forget the modern picture. Today, cops have cameras, GPS, databases, instant queries, tech. Back then, it was mostly your eyes, your instincts, and how fast you could react when someone suddenly shoved their hand into a pocket in the dark. In the early 90s, many American cities were on edge. The news talked almost daily about shootings, carjackings, robberies, street gangs, drugs, especially in big cities: New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore. For a regular person, it was just a dangerous neighborhood. For a cop, it was a zone where one mistake could be your last. And the scariest part wasn't even the crime itself. It was that you never knew exactly when it would begin. Your day didn't start with coffee, but with a short briefing. Someone didn't make it home. A store got robbed. A car was found with bullet holes in the door. Shots were fired overnight, and nobody wants to say who pulled the trigger first. Then you get into your patrol car, an old Ford Crown Victoria. Heavy, loud, almost legendary. No screens, no navigation, no digital support. Just a steering wheel, a radio, a siren, and an endless city beyond the windshield. You roll into a district where streetlights flicker, sidewalks empty too early, and every alley feels like someone is already watching you. The radio clicks. Possible assault. And in that moment, there is no tomorrow, only the current minute. In the 90s, the street wasn't just dangerous, it was unpredictable. The crack epidemic still had a grip on the country. Drugs, addiction, broken families, unemployment, teenagers with guns, people willing to do anything for the next hit or a stack of cash. You could stop someone for a minor violation and 10 seconds later realize you're not dealing with a simple offender, but someone ready to shoot first. That was the essence of the time. Not every call sounded serious, but any call could end in death. Reports of fallen officers sounded almost like a sentence. Newspapers regularly wrote about cops who never came back from their shift. Officers killed during arrests, shot on routine calls, hit by cars during pursuits, killed simply because they stepped out of the car at the wrong moment. Every story hit hard because everyone understood. It's not somewhere out there. It's your city, your shift, your call sign on the radio. And here's the most unsettling part. The fear wasn't only of criminals, it was also of being misunderstood. Because the 90s were a time when public attitudes toward police became more complicated. On one hand, society demanded strict order. On the other, more and more people began to see the police not as heroes, but as a force that couldn't be blindly trusted. After high-profile incidents and scandals, tension only grew. Every use of force case could explode in the news. Every decision on the street could end up in court, in the media, in protests. You had to be tough, but not too tough. Confident, but not aggressive. Fast, but flawless. A perfect balance that almost never exists in reality. Imagine a routine traffic stop at night. You walk up to a tinted window, two people inside. Hands on the wheel? Yes. Something shiny on the floor? Maybe. One of them is too tense, the other says nothing. The car smells like cheap tobacco, sweat, and gasoline. In the 90s, you didn't think, I'll just check the database. No, you checked IDs, waited for a response over the radio, watched faces, hands, shoulder movements, eye contact, breathing. Because the street taught you one thing. Danger almost never looks like danger. Often it looks like an ordinary guy in a hoodie who's just a little too calm. Now, imagine the morgue. Not like in the movies, but as part of the system. People ended up there after shootings, overdoses, street fights, domestic violence, accidents, stray bullets. For a 90s cop, death wasn't an abstract statistic. It was a byproduct of the neighborhood. You saw too many bodies, too many grieving families, too many familiar stories. Just stepped out for a minute. Got in with the wrong crowd. Didn't run in time. Didn't think he had a weapon. And it broke people. Not instantly, not dramatically, gradually. Some became quieter, some started sleeping with the door open, some stopped trusting anyone at all, others turned into stone, because otherwise, you just don't survive. And all of this unfolded in a very real 90s America. cassette players, wired phones, paper newspapers, huge offices, cigarette smoke in diners, evening news showing murders and chases like it was just the weather. If you were a cop, your shift didn't end after 8 hours. It followed you home. You sat down for dinner and still heard the radio. You closed your eyes and still saw the flashing lights on the wall. You came back from a night shift, and somewhere in the city, shots were already being fired again. And the hardest part wasn't the constant risk. The hardest part was getting used to it. When danger becomes routine, a person starts wearing out. So why did the role feel almost unbearable in the 90s? Because you worked in a country where, in some areas, violence wasn't the exception. It was the norm. Where some streets emptied out completely after dark. Where kids learned early to tell the difference between fireworks and gunshots. Where the people standing outside buildings weren't always neighbors, but watchers, tracking who came and went. You could respond to a domestic dispute and walk into a house held together by fear. You could chase a simple theft and run into an armed group. You could try to break up a fight without knowing one of them had already decided to go all the way. That's where the 90s hit hardest. Sometimes you weren't preventing crime. Sometimes you were just there when it happened. There's a heavy belt on your waist, an even heavier weight on your mind. Because after every shift, you don't just come back tired. You come back burned out from the inside. You check your gun, take off your uniform, wash off someone else's blood, dust, sweat, the grime of the street, and still can't fully wash the day away. And tomorrow, it all starts again. A new briefing, a new district, a car that drove off too fast, a door kicked in, a call where you don't know if you'll see the morning. In the 90s, being a cop meant living with the feeling that death rides in the same car as you. You just don't always know which seat it's in. And yet, that's exactly why many stayed. Not because they weren't afraid, but because they were, and still showed up. It was an era where a police officer wasn't a superhero, just a person who knows too well what broken glass sounds like at night, what an empty street looks like right before a shot, how a face changes when someone realizes it's too late to lie, and how much a cop can age in one very bad night. If you were a cop in 90s America, you'd quickly learn one thing. There's no cinematic heroism here. Only life on the edge, between life and death, between the law and the street, between making it home and becoming another line in the evening report. And that's what made the 90s so harsh, so real, and so terrifying at the same time. Because in that America, you weren't just keeping order. Every day you were trying to stop the city from slipping completely into darkness.